Across the world, hidden in forests, deserts, and along ancient coastlines, lie temples that challenge everything we think we know about ancient civilizations. Some rise with towering stones carved with impossible precision, while others hide underground, whispering secrets through shadowed corridors. Certain sites align perfectly with the stars, and others display feats of engineering that still baffle modern experts. Each temple holds a story, blending faith, power, and mystery, and revealing glimpses of knowledge long lost to time. As we explore these enigmatic places in this video, we encounter wonders that inspire awe, puzzles that resist explanation, and haunting traces of civilizations that shaped human history in ways we are only beginning to understand. Göbekli Tepe, Turkey. On a barren hilltop in southeastern Turkey, the outlines of vast stone circles rise from the dust, their pillars carved long before the first known cities existed. This place is called Göbekli Tepe, and it unsettles historians because it rewrites what we thought we knew about the origins of human civilization. The site dates back to around 9,600 BCE, making it over 1100 years old. That places it at least 6,000 years earlier than Stonehenge, yet its architecture is far more sophisticated. Each of its monumental pillars weighs up to 20 tons, arranged in circles with a central pair standing taller than the rest. Moving and positioning such stones without metal tools, wheels, or domesticated animals seems almost impossible. Archaeologists discovered that many of these pillars are decorated with intricate carvings of animals, abstract symbols, and human-like figures. Lions, snakes, vultures, and wild boars appear in detailed relief, their forms still crisp despite the weight of time. Some researchers believe these carvings carried spiritual meaning, perhaps tied to rituals of death and rebirth, but their exact purpose remains unknown. What makes Göbekli Tepe even more puzzling is its placement in history. Conventional timelines suggest that complex temples could only emerge after farming created permanent settlements. Yet Göbekli Tepe was built by hunter-gatherers, people who were thought to live in small mobile groups. The idea that such communities could organize enough labor and resources to raise massive stone sanctuaries challenges long-held theories about social development. Excavations have revealed multiple layers of construction, with new enclosures built atop older ones. Each phase involved careful burial of the structures beneath layers of earth, as if the builders wanted to preserve them rather than let them decay. Why they sealed their own creations remains one of the site's greatest mysteries, hinting at ritual closure or some hidden reason we cannot yet grasp. The discovery itself was almost accidental. In the 1960s, survey teams mistook the hill for a medieval cemetery and left it unstudied. Only in 1994 did German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt recognize the stones as prehistoric, setting off decades of excavation that continue to this day. With each season, more circles emerge from the soil, revealing a scale of construction no one expected. Ground-penetrating radar surveys later revealed that only a fraction of the site had been unearthed. Beneath the unexcavated soil may lie dozens more circles, suggesting Göbekli Tepe is far larger than what has been exposed so far. There are also questions about the knowledge encoded in the layout. Some researchers suggest astronomical alignments, noting that certain pillars may point towards star constellations visible in the ancient sky. If this interpretation proves correct, it would mean hunter-gatherers charted celestial movements with remarkable precision thousands of years before formal astronomy. Excavations also uncovered evidence of carved stone basins and channels, which may have been used to hold liquids such as water, blood, or fermented drinks during ceremonies. Combined with the towering pillars and the animal imagery, these features suggest that rituals here could have engaged multiple senses: sight, sound, and even taste, turning the temple into a stage for powerful communal experiences. The function of Göbekli Tepe remains debated. Some see it as a communal gathering place where scattered groups met for seasonal rituals. Others believe it served as a center of belief, a temple where shamans or priests mediated between the human and the divine. Without written records, its true role can only be pieced together through stone, soil, and speculation. What cannot be denied is the effort it required. Thousands of people must have participated in quarrying, transporting, and erecting the pillars, yet no signs of permanent villages have been found nearby. The absence of domestic structures suggests that people travelled long distances to work and worship here, drawn to a sacred site whose meaning has slipped away. The most haunting aspect of Göbekli Tepe is that we do not know why it was abandoned. Sometime around 8000 BCE, its builders filled the enclosures with rubble and left the hill behind. When the stones disappeared beneath the earth, so too did the memory of why they were raised, leaving only questions that deepen with every excavation. Buried in silence for millennia, Göbekli Tepe waits with secrets carved in stone, daring us to explain how a temple older than history itself could exist at all. Kailasa Temple, Ellora, India. In the heart of Maharashtra, cliffs of volcanic basalt hide a wonder that seems almost impossible to explain. From the outside, it looks like a mountain of stone shaped by nature, but stepping closer reveals the Kailasa Temple, a massive shrine carved directly into the rock, as if the mountain itself had been hollowed into a cathedral. Unlike most monuments, built stone by stone, this temple was excavated from the top down. Ancient builders removed more than 200 tons of solid rock to reveal the sprawling complex, a feat that continues to puzzle engineers today. The sheer scale of the removal suggests generations of labor, yet there is no record of how such a task was organized or achieved with the simple tools of the time. Legends in India attribute the temple's origin to King Krishna I of the Rashtrakuta dynasty in the 8th century, but historians debate whether a single reign could have overseen so vast an effort. Inscriptions give only fragments of information, leaving wide gaps in our understanding of its true timeline. The lack of definitive records fuels theories that construction may have begun earlier or stretched far longer than official accounts suggest. Walking through its stone corridors, visitors find a full complex rather than a single shrine. There are multiple levels, carved colonnades, enormous statues, and entire courtyards flanked by smaller temples. The main tower rises over 100 feet high, its summit appearing to scrape the sky while its base sinks into shadow, creating the sense of a structure suspended between worlds. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. Elephants, lions, and mythic guardians are sculpted as if they emerge alive from the stone, while panels depict entire epics from Hindu tradition, including scenes from the Ramayana and Mahabharata. Every surface carries detail, yet the work remains balanced, as if an unseen plan guided the chisels of countless artisans. Some figures are so finely etched that details like jewelry, facial expressions, and flowing garments are still visible, showing a level of precision usually expected in metalwork rather than chiseling raw basalt. Architectural analysis reveals a perfection that seems to ignore the limits of ancient technology. The symmetry of the courtyards, the precision of the pillars, and the alignment of shrines all suggest advanced planning tools, but no evidence of such instruments has ever been found. How the architects calculated dimensions and maintained balance while carving downward into living rock remains an unresolved question. The temple also raises logistical mysteries. Removing hundreds of thousands of tons of rock without leaving significant debris fields nearby is strange, since such waste should have been monumental in scale. The absence of clear dumping grounds leaves open the question of how the excavated stone was transported, or whether some method of disposal remains hidden beneath later settlements. Archaeologists have noted that the absence of inscriptions explaining quarrying or transport methods is especially unusual, since nearby dynasties often recorded such achievements as a sign of royal power. Spiritual purpose is woven into the very design. The temple honors Lord Shiva, and its form is meant to echo Mount Kailash, the sacred Himalayan peak believed to be his home. This symbolism turns the temple into a cosmic replica, a man-made mountain designed to bring the divine down to earth. The ambition of recreating a mythic mountain from solid basalt makes the achievement even more staggering. Despite its grandeur, Kailasa was not isolated. It forms part of the Ellora Caves, a complex of more than 30 temples and monasteries representing Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain traditions. This coexistence hints at a period of remarkable religious tolerance and cultural exchange, but it also complicates the story. How did artisans of different faiths work side by side on such ambitious projects, and what knowledge might they have shared in the process? Travelers who first encountered the temple in earlier centuries often doubted it was man-made at all. The scale, the hollowed courtyards, and the seamless design gave the impression of something created by forces beyond human reach. Even today, modern architects and archaeologists marvel that such an achievement could have been carried out without machinery, blueprints, or advanced surveying tools. The longer one studies the Kailasa temple, the clearer it becomes that the mountain still hides secrets about how it was shaped and why its builders attempted a task so overwhelming in scope. Borobudur, Indonesia. Morning mist clings to the hills of central Java, and through the haze, a dark silhouette rises like a stepped mountain of stone. As the sun begins to climb, its light catches hundreds of bell-shaped stupas and thousands of carved figures, revealing Borobudur, a monument so vast and enigmatic that scholars still struggle to explain why it was built in this particular way. Many of these stupas hold statues of the Buddha, each sitting in silent meditation, their expressions carved with an almost lifelike stillness that has lasted for more than 1,000 years. Constructed in the 9th century during the Sailendra dynasty, Borobudur is the largest Buddhist temple in the world. It consists of 9 stacked platforms that rise toward a central dome, each level covered in intricate reliefs. Seen from above, the temple forms a perfect mandala, a cosmic diagram that symbolizes the universe, suggesting that its builders understood advanced spiritual geometry centuries before such concepts were written down in Southeast Asia. More than 600 relief panels decorate the walls, each one telling stories from Buddhist texts or illustrating moral lessons. Pilgrims were meant to walk the monument in a clockwise path, beginning at the base and slowly ascending through the levels, guided by the carvings toward enlightenment. This journey would take hours, perhaps even days, and would immerse travelers in a spiritual narrative told not through words but through stone. The temple is also covered with 504 statues of the Buddha, each seated in meditation. Many of these figures sit inside latticed stupas, partially concealed by the stone screens that surround them. From certain angles, the Buddhas seem to vanish into shadow, while from others they appear to watch silently, their presence both serene and unsettling. Archaeologists continue to marvel at the scale of the construction. Millions of volcanic stones were used, fitted without mortar in a way that has endured centuries of earthquakes, heavy rains, and volcanic eruptions. The precision of its drainage system is especially striking, with carved spouts channeling water away to protect the structure. Without this careful engineering, the entire monument might have crumbled long ago. In spite of its stability, Borobudur was left to decay. By the 14th century, it had fallen into disuse, perhaps as Buddhism declined in Java and Islam became the dominant religion. For centuries, the jungle swallowed the temple, covering it with thick vegetation and soil until only a mound remained. Villagers living nearby spoke of a haunted hill, never realizing that an immense shrine lay buried beneath their feet. Rediscovery came in the early 19th century when British colonial administrator Thomas Stamford Raffles heard rumours of the ruins and ordered an excavation. Workers cut through the jungle to reveal the terraces, though many statues had already been damaged or stolen. The process of uncovering the monument was slow and dangerous, as the structure had been weakened by centuries of neglect. Some accounts mention that the monument was so deeply buried that entire chambers were filled with compacted earth, making early restoration a slow and painstaking task. Conservation efforts have continued into the modern era, including a massive restoration led by UNESCO in the 1970s. Thousands of stones were dismantled, cleaned, and reset on new foundations to stabilize the temple. This project saved Borobudur from collapse, but it also highlighted how much of its original construction methods remain unknown. How ancient builders transported, placed, and aligned such a staggering quantity of stone without written plans is still a subject of speculation. Some researchers believe Borobudur was not only a temple, but also an astronomical observatory. The alignment of its terraces and stupas appears to mirror celestial patterns, with certain sightlines pointing towards solstices and equinoxes. Whether intentional or coincidental, the possibility that the monument doubled as a cosmic map adds another layer of complexity to its meaning. Even today, rituals continue at Borobudur. Each year on Vesak, thousands of monks and pilgrims gather at the temple, carrying candles that illuminate the terraces as chants echo through the night air. In these moments, the monument feels alive again, its ancient stones once more serving the spiritual purpose for which they were carved. The question that lingers is why such a massive structure, unmatched anywhere else in Southeast Asia, was raised at all, and what deeper knowledge its builders may have encoded within its walls. Chavin de Huantar, Peru. High in the Peruvian Andes, where valleys narrow and rivers carve through stone, lies Chavin de Huantar, a site that once drew people from across the region. Approaching the ruins, the setting feels heavy with silence, broken only by the sound of running water from nearby streams. The remains of plazas, temples, and stairways suggest a place not only built for gatherings, but for encounters with something far more mysterious. Travelers who arrive here today walk into a landscape that still carries the aura of a forgotten order. The Chavin culture flourished around 1200 to 500 BCE, and their ceremonial center at Chavin de Huantar became a hub of religion and influence. Archaeologists believe people from faraway valleys and coastal plains came here, bringing offerings and seeking guidance from priests. The layout of the site is carefully designed, with sunken courts and monumental stairways leading into dark passageways. From its earliest stages, the complex was more than stone walls. It was a carefully crafted space meant to impress and perhaps overwhelm those who entered. At the heart of the site lies the old temple, a massive stone structure filled with narrow corridors and hidden chambers. The most striking feature inside is the lanzon, a 15-foot granite monolith carved with a figure that blends human and animal traits. Its fangs, claws, and staring eyes suggest a being both terrifying and sacred. Positioned deep within the temple, the lanzon is only visible after moving through twisting passages, a journey that may have been designed to disorient visitors before their encounter with the statue. The design of these interior tunnels adds another layer of mystery. Some of the passages are arranged so that sound echoes in unusual ways, amplifying chants or creating disembodied voices. Priests moving through the dark with torches could control the atmosphere completely, making outsiders believe they were in the presence of supernatural forces. It was a stage crafted with stone and shadow, where ritual merged with performance to produce awe and fear. Outside, the site reveals a different kind of spectacle. Carved stone heads once lined the temple walls, each with distorted faces showing fangs, bulging eyes, or serpentine hair. Many scholars interpret these as depictions of shamans in trance, transformed into animals through ritual and hallucinogens. While many of the heads are missing today, those that remain carry an intensity that suggests transformation was central to Chavin belief. These faces looked out over the plaza, reminding all who gathered that the boundary between human and animal, or between this world and another, could be crossed. Another element that sets Chavin apart is its sophisticated water system. Channels carved beneath the temples diverted streams into hidden ducts, controlling the sound and movement of water during ceremonies. In some cases, rushing water could fill chambers and then suddenly drain, producing dramatic effects for those inside. Archaeologists believe these hydraulic designs may have been used to simulate the voice of the gods or to heighten the sensory experience of rituals. Such engineering shows that the builders were not only skilled in architecture, but also masters in manipulating natural forces for spiritual impact. Artifacts found at the site provide clues about those who came here. Excavations have uncovered finely crafted pottery, carved obsidian tools, and ornaments made of gold and shell. The styles show connections to distant regions, confirming that Chavin de Huantar was a center of exchange and influence. People may have traveled great distances to take part in ceremonies, spreading the symbols and beliefs of the Chavin culture throughout the Andes. In this way, the site was both a sacred space and a node in a larger network of cultural exchange. Much about Chavin de Huantar remains difficult to explain, even after centuries of study. The true meaning of the lanzon, the exact rituals performed in the dark passageways, and the full purpose of the carved heads are still debated. Some suggest that hallucinogenic plants were used to deepen visions and connect participants with the beings carved in stone. Others see the site as an early model of religious authority, where priests controlled access to hidden knowledge. Whatever the case, the ruins leave more questions than answers. Standing among the broken stones, it is easy to imagine the sound of water rushing beneath the ground and torches flickering against carved walls. The site feels like a carefully arranged stage, one where centuries of ceremonies left behind, echoes that refuse to fade. What is most unsettling is how much of the original design still works, as though the builders intended their creations to continue whispering long after their world had vanished. Even now, Chavin de Huantar holds its secrets in silence, waiting for anyone willing to step into its shadowed corridors to wonder what forces once ruled here. Machu Picchu's Temple of the Sun, Peru. Perched on a ridge surrounded by sharp green peaks, Machu Picchu is filled with remarkable structures. But few draw the same fascination as the Temple of the Sunday. Its curved wall of carefully shaped granite blocks stands out among the surrounding terraces and plazas, reflecting both beauty and purpose. From the outside, the temple appears almost delicate in design, but the precision of its construction reveals skill beyond ordinary stonework. Visitors who step close to the wall often notice how seamlessly the stones fit, leaving no gap between them. The temple is thought to have been a sacred space dedicated to Inti, the sun god of the Inca. Its position within the citadel shows that it was more than just another building. It was a place tied to celestial cycles. On certain days of the year, sunlight streams through its windows to fall directly on carved stones inside. These alignments link the structure to the solstices, suggesting that its builders were watching the sky with the accuracy of astronomers. Such deliberate connections between architecture and the heavens reveal a worldview where the natural and divine were inseparable. Beneath the temple lies a cave, a feature that adds another layer of meaning to the site. Known as the royal tomb by some scholars, this chamber may have served as a place of burial or ritual. The combination of a sun temple above and an underworld chamber below reflects a cosmic order, uniting sky and earth in one location. The blending of these realms within a single structure suggests that the Inca used architecture not just for ceremony, but to embody their spiritual universe. The curved outer wall of the temple is striking in itself. Each stone is carved with such precision that it seems molded rather than cut, and the slight inward tilt of the wall adds strength against earthquakes. This technique shows the Incas' deep understanding of their environment, where tremors were a constant risk. Modern engineers still study these walls to understand how such stability was achieved without the use of mortar. The craftsmanship points to knowledge that feels both ancient and advanced. Inside the temple, 2 windows command particular attention. One faces the rising sun during the June solstice, while the other aligns with the sun in December. The placement would have allowed priests to track the passage of seasons, marking times for planting and harvest. Yet the windows may have had more than practical value. They could have symbolized moments when the world of humans connected directly to divine forces. To stand inside the chamber as sunlight floods through is to witness a moment that must have carried profound meaning for those who built it. The location of the temple within Machu Picchu adds to its aura of mystery. It sits at a high point near the sacred plaza, overlooking much of the surrounding site. From here, the view stretches across the mountains, as though the temple was meant to link human rituals with the wider landscape. Some researchers believe the positioning was not random, but part of a larger pattern of sacred geography. The mountains themselves may have been considered holy, and the temple a way of honoring them while also tracking the skies above. Archaeological studies have revealed artifacts connected to ceremonies at the temple. Pottery, ceremonial vessels, and traces of burned offerings suggest that rituals involving fire and food were performed here. These discoveries provide glimpses into how the temple was used, though they leave many questions unanswered. The combination of astronomical alignment, ritual objects, and symbolic architecture indicates a multi-layered purpose that defies simple explanation. The Spaniards never discovered Machu Picchu during their conquest, which left the Temple of the Sun untouched by colonial destruction. As a result, it remains one of the purest examples of Inca sacred architecture. This survival allows modern visitors to stand in the same place as priests once did, feeling the same light and shadows move across stone surfaces. Yet, despite its preservation, the meaning behind its design has not been fully uncovered. What unsettles many is how a civilization without iron tools or written records achieved such precision. Each stone is not only cut to fit but also shaped to curve with the wall, suggesting a level of planning that seems impossible for the resources available. While archaeologists offer theories of trial and error, the sheer perfection of the structure continues to puzzle. The temple seems to resist easy answers, as though its builders wanted the mystery to endure. The Temple of the Sun at Machu Picchu is more than a ruin. It is a riddle carved into the mountains, one that still whispers of a knowledge just out of reach. Madain Saleh's rock temples, Saudi Arabia. The sandstone cliffs of northwestern Saudi Arabia rise from the desert like a wall, their surfaces marked with sharp shadows at sunrise and sunset. Carved into these cliffs are dozens of monumental facades, each cut directly from the living rock. Known today as Madain Saleh or Al-Hijr, this site holds over 100 tombs and temples created by the Nabateans, the same civilization that built Petra in Jordan. The silence of the desert makes the intricate carvings seem almost unreal, as though they had appeared overnight rather than through years of painstaking labor. The Nabateans flourished between the 1st century BCE and the 1st century CE, controlling trade routes that carried incense, spices, and precious goods across Arabia. Their wealth allowed them to shape cities in stone, blending architectural ideas from Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Greece. At Madain Saleh, they transformed cliffs into a gallery of facades that rise several stories high, decorated with columns, pediments, and symbolic motifs. What astonishes researchers is the sheer precision of these carvings, cut from top to bottom with remarkable symmetry, without the scaffolding or iron tools that would make such work possible today. Each temple-like tomb presents a face to the desert, yet its interiors are stark, often simple chambers cut deep into the rock. This contrast between the ornate exterior and the plain interior suggests that the emphasis was on outward display rather than inner space. Scholars believe these facades honored the dead while also demonstrating the power of the living. Still, the reasoning behind such immense effort for tombs in a harsh and isolated landscape leaves lingering questions. Why create monumental architecture in a place where survival itself was a constant challenge? Inscriptions etched near some of the tombs reveal the names of those buried within, along with warnings against disturbing the dead. These texts, written in early Nabatean script, offer glimpses of the language that would evolve into Arabic. They show that Madain Saleh was not just a remote outpost, but a sacred and cultural center. The inscriptions also reflect an attempt to secure the memory of individuals long after their passing, though the desert has erased much of the daily life that once surrounded these carvings. Water management was another puzzle that shaped this settlement. Archaeologists have found traces of channels, cisterns, and wells that supplied the city with enough water to sustain life in the arid climate. The Nabateans were masters of hydraulic engineering, capturing rainwater and storing it for months at a time. How they calculated and constructed these systems in such an unforgiving landscape demonstrates technical skill that continues to impress modern engineers. Without this knowledge, Madain Saleh could never have thrived. The artistic influences visible in the facades deepen the mystery of the site. Some structures carry Egyptian-style cornices, while others display Greek columns and Roman arches, blended into a unique Nabatean style. This fusion shows that the builders were not isolated, but connected to distant cultures through trade and travel. Yet, the exact methods by which artisans transmitted and adapted these ideas across thousands of kilometers remain uncertain. It suggests a network of cultural exchange that was more complex than historians once believed. Though grand in scale, Madain Saleh was eventually left in silence. By the 12th century CE, the Roman Empire had annexed Nabatean lands, and trade routes began to shift. The desert reclaimed the city, leaving the rock temples untouched but empty. Later generations avoided the site, with local traditions warning that it was cursed or haunted. For centuries, people steered clear of the ruins, preserving them in an eerie state of stillness until modern archaeologists began studying them in the 19th and 20th centuries. At present, the facades stand weathered yet intact, their edges softened by wind but their forms unmistakable. Walking among them, visitors often describe a sense of stepping into another world, one where time has stopped. The craftsmanship feels too exact to be accidental, yet too immense for tools that the Nabateans are believed to have possessed. The result is a tension between what history can explain and what the stones themselves seem to withhold. Cut into the desert cliffs, the temples and tombs of Madain Saleh endure as a puzzle, their silent faces watching over the sands while holding the secrets of their creation. Mithraeum of Carabra, England, near the windswept stretch of Hadrian's Wall, where Roman soldiers once guarded the empire's northern frontier, lies a temple unlike the great stone shrines of Greece or Egypt. Hidden in the soil for centuries, the Mithraeum of Carabra was built not for public ceremony, but for secret gatherings. It was a place where men descended into a dim chamber lit by torches, a setting designed to echo caves rather than open sanctuaries. When it was uncovered in the mid-20th century, archaeologists realized they were looking at the remains of a mystery cult that thrived in the shadow of Rome's military outpost. The cult of Mithras, whose origins trace to the east, spread widely across the Roman world in the honest through 4th centuries CE. It appealed especially to soldiers, merchants, and officials, groups bound by loyalty and secrecy. At Carabra, these initiates created a sanctuary, by sinking a narrow, rectangular chamber into the ground. The shape imitated an underground cavern, thought to symbolize the universe itself. Stone benches lined the sides, where followers would recline during ritual meals. At the far end stood a raised platform with a relief of Mithras in his most famous act, slaying a cosmic bull. The bull-slaying scene, known as the Tauroctony, was central to Mithraic worship. The relief at Carabra showed Mithras in a Phrygian cap, plunging a dagger into the bull's neck as animals and symbols clustered around. Each detail carried hidden meaning. The scorpion attacking the bull's genitals, the snake and dog drinking its blood, the torchbearers flanking the scene, all were thought to represent constellations and cosmic forces. To stand before this carving in the temple's flickering light would have been to confront a vision of life, death, and the stars woven into myth. Excavations revealed more than art. Archaeologists found altars dedicated to Mithras, some inscribed by Roman officers who left their names as a mark of devotion. These dedications confirm that the cult was active at Carabra during the Twond and Thread centuries CE, when garrisons along Hadrian's Wall were fully manned. Offerings of coins, bones, and vessels were also uncovered, suggesting repeated rituals involving sacrifice and feasting. The presence of these remains shows that the Mithraeum was not just symbolic, but central to the spiritual lives of its members. The temple's design highlights its secrecy. Unlike other religious buildings, it lacked grand entrances or open courtyards. Instead, the chamber was concealed, with light controlled to enhance its atmosphere. Only initiates were allowed inside, and their ceremonies followed a strict sequence of grades or ranks. Initiation might involve blindfolds, oaths, and tests of endurance, though details are known only through scattered references in Roman writings. At Carabra, the physical setting reinforced the sense of mystery, making the experience unforgettable for those admitted. Water played an important role in the site as well. Carabra lies near a natural spring, which may explain why the Mithraeum was established here. Some scholars suggest that water was used in purification rituals, linking the sanctuary to ideas of rebirth and cleansing. Later, the spring itself became associated with a separate shrine to the goddess Coventina, showing how sacred traditions overlapped at the edge of the empire. The presence of both shrines in one place suggests a landscape alive with layered meanings. The cult of Mithras, though popular, faded in the 4th century as Christianity spread through the empire. The Mithraeum at Carabra was eventually abandoned, its altars toppled and reused as building stone. The chamber filled with earth, erasing its presence until excavations brought it back to light in 1949. What survived was enough to reconstruct the layout and display the altars, which today can be seen in the nearby museum at Chester's Roman fort. Yet questions remain about the deeper meaning of the cult's symbols. Scholars debate whether Mithraism offered a path to salvation, a map of the cosmos, or simply a fraternal bond among soldiers far from home. No sacred texts survive to explain its teachings, leaving only fragments carved in stone. At Carabra, the temple's remains are more than ruins. They are clues to a hidden faith that valued secrecy so highly that its full story may never be told. The Mithraeum of Carabra stands as a reminder that beneath Rome's rigid military presence, shadowed traditions thrived, their echoes still lingering in the stones beneath the English soil. Temple of the Inscriptions, Palenque, Mexico. The humid air of Chiapas clings to the limestone ruins of Palenque, where the jungle seems intent on swallowing every stone back into silence. Rising above the forest canopy stands the Temple of the Inscriptions, its wide tiers and steep stairways framed by thick greenery. The structure appears commanding yet strangely concealed, as if it was built to endure the passing of centuries while hiding more than it revealed. Visitors arriving at the site often feel that they are stepping into a place that resists time itself. Unlike many temples that exist as empty shells of stone, This one carries a voice from the past carved into its very walls. Inside the temple are long panels filled with Mayan glyphs, one of the most extensive inscriptions ever discovered in the Americas. These glyphs recount the history of rulers, their wars, and their rituals, yet woven between the known events are cryptic references that still puzzle scholars. The Mayan scribes seemed intent on recording something beyond ordinary dynastic memory, leaving behind words that resist full translation. The structure gained worldwide attention in 1952 when archaeologist Alberto Ruiz-Luillier uncovered a hidden stairway descending deep beneath the temple floor. What he found stunned the world: a massive burial chamber, the tomb of the ruler Pakal the Great. His sarcophagus lay sealed beneath a heavy stone lid carved with intricate imagery that continues to spark debate. For centuries, this temple had been regarded as a ceremonial monument, but beneath it lay one of the most elaborate crypts of the ancient Americas. The carvings on the sarcophagus lid have become some of the most contested images in archaeology. Pakal is shown reclining at the center, surrounded by symbols of both the heavens and the underworld. Some researchers interpret the scene as his soul's journey through the Mayan cosmos, rising like maize reborn after death. Others claim the imagery resembles a man seated within a strange mechanical craft, fueling fringe theories that the temple may preserve accounts of lost knowledge. The ambiguity of the design allows endless speculation, ensuring that the mystery never fully settles. The chamber itself raises questions about how it was even constructed. The tomb lies beneath tons of stone, with passageways so narrow that removing the heavy lid of the sarcophagus seems nearly impossible with the tools available at the time. The precision of the cuts, the alignment of the chamber, and the effort required to conceal it suggest knowledge of engineering that is still difficult to explain. No inscriptions reveal how the builders achieved such a feat, leaving the methods hidden along with their secrets. Beyond the central tomb, the temple's inscriptions continue to challenge understanding. The glyphs extend across multiple panels, some of which recount astronomical cycles tied to Venus and other celestial bodies. The precision of these records reveals a mastery of timekeeping, far beyond what was expected of an ancient culture working without modern instruments. The calendar links between Pakal's reign and cosmic cycles hint at a worldview where rulers and stars were inseparable, but the deeper purpose of these calculations remains unclear. The temple's position within Palenque also raises puzzles. Unlike some Mayan sites that align with solar events, the Temple of the Inscriptions does not clearly fit into the expected patterns. Its orientation seems tied to a more complex set of alignments, perhaps linked to rituals we no longer understand. Some archaeologists believe the temple acted as both a mausoleum and an observatory, a structure where political power, religion, and astronomy merged in ways still difficult to interpret. When the tomb was first opened, objects surrounding the sarcophagus added to the mystery. Jade masks, shell ornaments, and symbolic figures lay carefully placed, each item carrying layers of meaning now only partly understood. These objects suggest elaborate beliefs about life after death, yet they also hint at knowledge encoded in ritual form, preserved not as words, but as arrangements of symbols. To modernize, they appear like fragments of a lost code. Even today, the temple has not yielded all of its secrets. Sections remain sealed, too fragile or dangerous to explore, while ongoing studies of the inscriptions continue to raise new questions rather than answer old ones. The very design of the temple, with its concealed stairways and hidden tomb, suggests that the builders intended for much of its meaning to remain hidden, revealed only to those they deemed worthy. More than a memorial to Pakal the Great, the Temple of the Inscriptions endures as a riddle carved into stone, defying time and understanding. Hypogeum of Galsaflieni, Malta. Beneath the streets of Paola in Malta lies a world carved out of solid limestone, hidden from view until chance revealed it in the early 20th century. The hypogeum of Galsaflieni, discovered in 1902, is not a ruin of fallen stones or weathered columns, but an underground labyrinth of chambers, passageways, and carved altars. Its very existence raises questions. How did a prehistoric society, lacking iron tools, manage to cut into rock with such precision and symmetry? The complex extends down through 3 levels, with rooms arranged almost like a planned city beneath the earth. Walls curve smoothly, ceilings are arched, and some surfaces still bear red ochre paintings in swirling patterns that have survived for thousands of years. The engineering required to design and execute these spaces suggests knowledge beyond what is usually credited to the people who lived on Malta more than 5 millennia ago. The deeper one goes, the more intricate the architecture becomes, as though the builders were mastering techniques as they descended. Archaeologists have identified certain rooms that seem designed to enhance sound in remarkable ways. The so-called oracle room is small, yet its walls create an acoustic effect where even the faintest voice can echo throughout the chamber. Low tones resonate so strongly that some researchers have suggested the space was intended for ritual chanting, creating a sensory experience that blended darkness, vibration, and sound into a kind of controlled mystery. How the builders discovered and exploited these acoustic properties is still unclear. Human remains uncovered inside the hypogeum add another layer of enigma. Thousands of bones were found, though not all complete skeletons, leading to speculation about the rituals practiced there. Some skulls were elongated in unusual ways, fueling theories that range from deliberate cultural modification to stranger ideas about non-human origin. While such claims remain controversial, the sheer number of burials indicates the hypogeum was not only a temple, but also a necropolis, linking the living and the dead within its stone chambers. The paintings that decorate certain walls and ceilings offer rare insight into the symbolic world of this prehistoric culture. Red spirals, curved lines, and geometric forms appear in repeating patterns, their meanings now lost. These images are among the oldest known painted surfaces in Europe, and their preservation in the damp, dark environment is remarkable. Some scholars believe the designs may have represented cosmic ideas, a kind of attempt to map cycles of life, death, and rebirth. Artifacts recovered from the site add still more intrigue. Figurines carved from stone, including the famous sleeping lady, suggest that rituals of fertility or ancestor worship may have been central to the purpose of the hypogeum. Tools, beads, and other offerings found near the remains of the dead show a society investing effort and meaning into what happened after death. Yet the absence of written records leaves interpretation open, and much of what was placed here is no longer present, raising questions about what might have been removed before the site was properly studied. The method of construction remains one of the most puzzling aspects. Without advanced metal tools or modern machinery, the builders would have relied on stone implements to cut and shape the limestone. The sheer size of the chambers, some large enough to hold gatherings of dozens of people, suggests years of planning and labour. How the workers removed tons of rock and ensured structural stability in a subterranean complex is a problem that engineers today still marvel at. The hypogeum was sealed off for centuries after it was abandoned, which is likely why it survived in such an extraordinary state of preservation. When rediscovered, much of its delicate environment was disrupted by early excavations and unregulated visits. Today, access is tightly restricted, with only a handful of visitors allowed each day to protect the fragile balance of humidity and temperature. Despite these measures, parts of the complex remain off-limits, locked away until better methods of conservation can be assured. Standing inside, surrounded by carved stone, faint echoes, and the lingering weight of centuries, visitors often describe a sense of disorientation, as if the underground world bends both space and perception. The silence feels heavy, broken only by the faintest sounds amplified through chambers that seem alive with their own resonance. It is not a place that offers clear answers, but rather one that deepens questions with every step. The hypogeum of Galsaflieni remains a silent puzzle, its chambers guarding secrets that no one has yet unlocked. Wat Pho, Laos. The slopes of southern Laos hide a temple that seems to grow out of the mountain itself. Wat Pho stands at the base of Pho Khao, a peak whose sharp ridgeline points towards the sky, giving the place a commanding presence even before a single stone structure comes into view. To travelers climbing its ancient stairways, the sense is not of approaching ruins, but of entering a landscape that was chosen for reasons both sacred and mysterious. Archaeologists trace the first construction of Wat Pho to the Khmer Empire, long before Angkor Wat was raised in Cambodia. This older sanctuary shows that the builders had already mastered techniques of design, drainage, and orientation. Yet many questions remain about why they chose this exact location. The alignment of the sanctuary with the mountain peak suggests careful planning, as if the architects were tying human devotion directly to the form of the earth itself. The site was not built all at once, but in layers across centuries. What stands today is a mixture of shrines, causeways, and carved lintels from different periods, each reflecting shifts in belief and power. Inscriptions found nearby suggest that Wat Pho was once the spiritual center of a wider settlement, linking the sanctuary to political authority in the region. Stone foundations reveal early Hindu influence, with dedications to Shiva, while later additions incorporated Buddhist symbols. The blending of traditions creates a place where the sacred identities overlap, leaving scholars uncertain about how worshippers truly used the sanctuary at different times. One striking feature is the long processional path leading up the slope. The walkway is lined with weathered boundary stones, their pointed tops still guiding the eye upward. Visitors moving along this axis feel as though they are participating in a ritual of ascent, climbing not only toward a temple, but also into a space deliberately marked off from the ordinary world. The design seems to suggest that the journey itself was part of the devotion. Near the summit, the temple's central structures stand on terraces overlooking the Mekong River Valley. This placement is both strategic and symbolic. From here, one can see the vast landscape spread out in every direction, linking the sacred mountain to the life-giving waters below. Such an arrangement raises questions about whether the builders intended the temple to function as a cosmic map, connecting sky, earth, and river in a single vision. Wat Pho is also filled with carvings that puzzle historians. Images of elephants, crocodiles, and divine figures cover stone blocks, their meanings only partly understood. Some depict classic Hindu myths, while others have no clear counterpart in known texts. The mix has led some to suggest that local traditions were woven into imported beliefs, producing a symbolic code that has not yet been fully deciphered. Among these carvings is a striking depiction of a linga mounted on a yoni, a symbol of fertility and cosmic balance that hints at the temple's role in rituals of renewal. In the shadow of the main sanctuary lies a natural spring, still flowing through stone channels carved centuries ago. Pilgrims once used the water for purification rites, and its placement seems far too precise to be accidental. The fact that the temple's builders were able to redirect the spring without modern tools speaks to both their engineering skill and their desire to bind natural forces into sacred practice. The spring still feeds a small reservoir carved into the rock, showing how the builders integrated utility and spirituality in ways that are difficult to separate. What deepens the mystery is how little written record survives from the site itself. Unlike Angkor, Wat Pho does not offer long inscriptions to explain its rituals or its patrons. The silence of the stones forces researchers to reconstruct the past from fragments of sculpture and architecture. Every discovery raises new questions rather than closing old ones, leaving the narrative of the temple unfinished. Today, Wat Pho is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and yet walking its terraces feels less like stepping into preserved history and more like entering a place that still holds its secrets close. The mountain, the river, and the stones seem bound together in ways that science cannot fully measure. The ruins of Wat Pho whisper of a design that goes beyond architecture, hinting at a vision of the world that continues to escape modern understanding. Nan Madol's temple ruins, Micronesia, off the eastern shore of Pohnpei, lies a maze of stone islands, half submerged in the tides and wrapped in silence. Locals call it Nan Madol, a city built on a coral reef where basalt walls rise straight from the sea. From above, it looks like a giant chessboard of canals and platforms, each section linked by waterways that shimmer under the equatorial sunday. No other ruin in the Pacific resembles it, which makes its origin feel even more alien. Visitors first notice the massive basalt logs stacked with impossible precision. Some reach more than 20 feet in length and weigh several tons, yet they balance without mortar, forming walls that tower above the shallow channels. How ancient builders quarried, moved, and positioned such heavy stones across the water remains unsolved. Oral traditions say the stones were flown by magic, carried through the air by powerful sorcery. Archaeologists have traced parts of Nan Madol back to the Sordler dynasty, which ruled Pohnpei from around the 12th to the 17th century. The site likely served as their political and ceremonial center, a place of rulers, priests, and rituals. At its height, more than 90 artificial islets were linked together, some holding tombs, others temples, and others still reserved for sacred gatherings. The very design suggests control, as if the ruling class tried to separate itself from the rest of the population by creating a city in the sea. One of the most imposing structures is Nandawa's, a mortuary temple built with basalt walls, nearly 25 feet high. Inside, the remains of royal ancestors were interred, giving the structure both sacred and political weight. Standing within its walls, the sense of isolation is striking waves lap against the outer barrier, and beyond the stone, the jungle is far away. The separation was deliberate, reinforcing the dynasty's power through distance and architecture. A second major compound, called Penkitel, functioned as a residence for high priests and hosted ceremonies that reinforced spiritual authority. Archaeological digs here uncovered signs of fire pits, shells, and ritual offerings, suggesting that religious practices at Nan Madol were not limited to burial rites, but also extended into daily life. These discoveries reveal that the city's layout was carefully balanced between political power, ancestral reverence, and spiritual control. European explorers stumbled upon the ruins centuries later and were baffled by what they found. In 1827, the Irish captain Richard Adu described the strange city as unlike anything he had seen in Oceania. Later, visitors repeated the same reaction: astonishment that such an advanced and ambitious site could be hidden on a small island in the Pacific. To many outsiders, Nan Madol seemed to belong to another world entirely. Theories about how the stones were transported continue to stir debate. Some suggest log rollers and rafts, though the island's forests likely lacked enough timber to support such methods. Others point to quarries miles away, which would have required immense coordination to drag or float the basalt across rough terrain and open water. The absence of detailed records leaves every explanation incomplete, feeding the site's aura of mystery. Local legends, however, do not shy from the supernatural. Stories speak of twin sorcerers who arrived from faraway lands, wielding powers strong enough to summon and move stone. They are said to have laid the foundations of Nan Madol before the Sordler rulers expanded it into a center of authority. For generations, these tales have lived alongside the ruins, reinforcing the idea that ordinary means could never have built them. Modern researchers using ground-penetrating surveys believe large sections of Nan Madol remain unexcavated, buried under sediment, or hidden by mangroves. Some evidence suggests that canals once extended farther, possibly connecting to structures now lost beneath the rising sea. If confirmed, this would mean the ruins we see today are only part of a much larger complex, leaving much of Nan Madol's true scale still concealed. Partly taken back by the sea, the ruins still stand today. Channels are clogged with silt, mangroves creep into the edges, and waves erode the outer walls. Despite this, the core structures remain, defying time and weather. Walking among them feels like stepping into a half-forgotten dream, where the line between history and legend blurs with every stone. What lies beneath Nan Madol, whether more ruins, burial sites, or undiscovered chambers, remains uncertain, but the ocean still guards its secrets with silence. Temple of Jupiter, Baalbek, Lebanon. Rising from the Bekaa Valley, the ruins of Baalbek possess an intensity that is impossible to overlook. Among them, the Temple of Jupiter dominates the site, its surviving columns towering high above the surrounding landscape. 6 of these massive shafts still stand, each over 20 meters tall, and their presence hints at a building that once rivaled the grandest temples of the Roman Empire. For visitors, the first impression is not just of beauty, but of scale so vast that it borders on the surreal. Archaeological studies reveal that the construction of this sanctuary began under Roman rule in the 1st century AD. The site itself, however, had already been sacred for centuries, associated with Phoenician and Hellenistic deities before Jupiter took prominence under Roman influence. What stands today is only a fragment of a larger complex that once included the Temple of Bacchus and the Temple of Venus, forming a triad of monumental architecture in the heart of Lebanon. What distinguishes the Temple of Jupiter from others across the empire is not only its colossal size, but also the foundation stones upon which it rests. Known as the Trilithon, 3 limestone blocks form part of the podium, each weighing more than 800 tons. Nearby lies an even larger stone, the so-called Stone of the Pregnant Woman, weighing over 10 tons and still resting in a quarry. These immense stones continue to puzzle engineers, who debate how ancient builders moved and placed them with such precision. Roman techniques could explain much of the construction, but the sheer weight of the blocks pushes the limits of what is thought possible for the tools of the time. Some historians suggest a complex system of pulleys, sledges, and manpower, while others believe rolling logs or earthen ramps were used. Yet, none of these methods fully resolves the mystery of how stones of such dimensions were positioned so perfectly. The unanswered questions have led to centuries of speculation, blending archaeology with legend. Accounts from later periods added new layers to the mystery. Medieval Arab historians described Baalbek as a place built by giants, an idea that found echoes in local folklore. The towering columns and oversized stones naturally fed such stories, convincing many that ordinary humans could not have created such a place. Though these tales lack historical evidence, they highlight the awe that the ruins inspired across generations. The temple was not only a feat of engineering, but also a center of ritual and authority. Ancient sources suggest that the cult of Jupiter Heliopolitanus, as he was known here, attracted pilgrims from across the region. Offerings, sacrifices, and grand ceremonies would have filled the courtyards, reinforcing both religious devotion and Roman power. The temple's prominence in the empire underlines Baalbek's importance as a provincial capital and spiritual hub. When Christianity spread through the Roman world, the meaning of the site shifted. Pagan temples, including the one dedicated to Jupiter, were closed or repurposed, and Baalbek later became home to churches and eventually mosques. Yet the old stones remained in place, their size ensuring their survival through centuries of cultural change. Earthquakes, wars, and looting damaged much of the structure, but the surviving fragments still communicate the grandeur of what once was. Modern excavations have uncovered additional details that connect the temple to a broader urban layout. Streets, courtyards, and smaller shrines radiated outward from the main sanctuary, suggesting that Baalbek was carefully planned as both a religious and civic centre. Artifacts found on site, including inscriptions and reliefs, provide evidence of the multicultural nature of the city, where Roman, Greek, and local traditions merged into a unique blend of worship and identity. Visitors who walk among the stones often notice the contrast between the ruins' current silence and their imagined past, filled with noise and ritual. The 6 columns that remain upright seem less like fragments than reminders, as if refusing to let the full memory of the temple fade. Each one holds the weight of both stone and story, bridging the divide between what is known and what is still hidden in unanswered questions. Not only a ruin, but a riddle written in stone, the Temple of Jupiter rises in fragments that dare the modern world to explain their origin. Chand Bauri Temple, Well, India. In the small town of Abhanari, Rajasthan, lies a structure that seems more like an illusion than architecture. Chand Bauri, a stepwell built over 1,000 years ago, draws the eye downward into a maze of precise geometry. More than 500 narrow steps cascade in perfect symmetry, forming one of the deepest stepwells in India. The effect is both mesmerizing and unsettling, as if the ground itself has been carved into a labyrinth of stone. Historians believe the stepwell was commissioned during the reign of King Chanda of the Nikumba dynasty in the 9th century. At its deepest point, the well drops about 30 meters, a depth that ensured access to water even during harsh droughts. This combination of function and beauty made it more than a reservoir. It was an engineering marvel, designed to sustain life in an arid land while reflecting the artistry of its builders. Unlike ordinary wells, Chand Bauri served as both a practical and social space. Villagers would descend the steps to collect water, rest in the shade, or escape the intense desert heat. The temperature at the bottom is often several degrees cooler than the surface, turning the stepwell into a natural retreat. Rituals and gatherings also took place within its walls, blending daily survival with cultural life. Some accounts suggest that performances, songs, and storytelling once echoed in its shaded corridors, turning the well into a stage as much as a sanctuary. The architecture of the stepwell demonstrates remarkable precision. The steps are arranged in a crisscross pattern, creating a visual illusion that shifts as one changes perspective. From above, the lines appear to merge into a vast, intricate design, while from within, the descent feels like a journey through a narrowing passage. This clever arrangement ensured stability and provided multiple routes for people to reach the water below. Attached to the stepwell is the Harshat Mata Temple, dedicated to the goddess of joy and happiness. Though much of the temple is now in ruins, its proximity highlights the link between spiritual devotion and the life-giving power of water. Devotees likely combined their prayers at the temple with visits to the stepwell, reinforcing the sacredness of both places. The pairing of worship and utility reflects a worldview where the divine and the everyday were inseparable. Legends surrounding Chand Bauri add another layer to its story. Local lore tells of ghosts who helped construct the stepwell in a single night, a tale that explains the sheer scale of the work and the mystery of how it was completed. Others say that anyone who tries to count the exact number of steps will fail, as the shifting patterns always confuse the eye. These stories keep the stepwell wrapped in an aura of wonder that goes beyond history. Despite its grandeur, the structure endured periods of neglect. During medieval times, the stepwell fell out of regular use as new water systems emerged. And by the modern era, it became more a site of curiosity than necessity. Yet its survival, through centuries of change, earthquakes and weathering, is a testament to the durability of its construction. Preservation efforts in recent decades have helped safeguard it. though much of its surrounding environment has changed drastically. Archaeologists note that without these modern interventions, erosion and human neglect might have erased large portions of the structure from sight. To stand at its edge, visitors say, is often a dizzying experience. The sheer depth and symmetry draw the gaze downward, creating a sensation of vertigo. Photographers and architects alike have studied the well, drawn not only by its scale, but also by the harmony of its design. Each angle reveals a new rhythm of lines and shadows, as if the structure shifts character with the movement of the Sunday. Ongoing studies of Chanbauri treat it not just as a monument, but as part of the vast network of stepwells found throughout India. These structures, numbering in the thousands, once formed the backbone of water management in regions prone to drought. Chanbauri, however, stands apart for its size, its artistic detail, and the lasting impression it leaves on all who see it. Beneath the stillness of its steps, Chanbauri holds the memory of a time when survival, worship, and artistry were carved together into stone, leaving questions about how such precision and vision emerged in the desert heart of Rajasthan. Sacsayhuaman, Peru. High above the city of Cusco, the massive walls of Sacsayhuaman stretch across the hillside like the backbone of a forgotten giant. From a distance, the stones appear almost sculpted, yet up close, their size becomes overwhelming, some blocks rising higher than a person and weighing many tons. The sheer scale makes it hard to imagine how such structures were moved into place without the use of wheels or modern machines. Visitors standing before the fortress often find themselves dwarfed by the ancient stonework, left to wonder what kind of knowledge guided its builders. The fortress is most often linked to the Inca civilization, whose power radiated from Cusco during the 15th and early 16th centuries. Chronicles written after the Spanish conquest describe the site as both a ceremonial space and a defensive stronghold. Some reports mention storehouses and towers once rising above the walls, though few of those features remain. The written accounts, however, cannot fully capture the mystery of the construction itself, where the past speaks through stone rather than words. Each block of limestone fits tightly with the next, so precise that a blade of grass or even a thin knife cannot pass between them. The technique used to shape and fit the stones has been debated for generations. Some suggest the blocks were pounded with stone hammers until they interlocked perfectly, while others believe a more advanced method must have been used. What is certain is that the fortress has endured centuries of earthquakes that reduced nearby Spanish buildings to rubble, yet the Inca walls remain steady and intact. Accounts from the conquest bring another layer of drama to the site. In 1536, during the siege of Cusco, Manco Inca and his forces retreated to Sacsayhuaman and fought fiercely against the Spaniards. Spanish chroniclers recorded the bloody battle where arrows, slings, and stones rained from the fortress heights. When the Spaniards finally broke through, the struggle left deep scars on both sides, and Sacsayhuaman became a symbol of defiance and tragedy. The battle turned the fortress from a place of strength into a stage for loss, yet its walls continued to stand firm. Later centuries saw the structure stripped of much of its stone. Spanish settlers dismantled sections of the fortress to reuse the blocks in churches and colonial buildings within Cusco. Despite this plundering, the largest stones remained untouched, too heavy to be moved even with the tools of the era. These monoliths are what survive today, testifying to the skill and ambition of the builders, and hinting at a design that could not be fully erased. The stones themselves invite endless questions. Some weigh more than 100 tons and were hauled from quarries miles away. How they were transported over steep terrain remains a puzzle, with theories ranging from ropes and wooden rollers to earth ramps. No single explanation has silenced the debate, and the absence of written Inca records leaves the process hidden. What seems clear is that the effort required not only physical labor, but an advanced system of coordination and planning. Legends add another layer of mystery. Local oral traditions sometimes describe Sacsayhuaman as part of a larger network of sacred sites surrounding Cusco, forming symbolic shapes when viewed from above. Stories also speak of tunnels running beneath the fortress, passages said to lead toward the heart of Cusco or even into the mountains. While archaeologists have confirmed the existence of some underground chambers, many claims remain unverified, keeping alive the whispers of hidden pathways and secrets buried in stone. Within the fortress today, the weight of history can still be felt pressing against the walls. The stones rise in zigzag formations that stretch across the hillside, casting long shadows as the sun shifts overhead. To many visitors, the air feels charged with something more than history, as though the ground itself holds memories too vast to put into words. The atmosphere is neither entirely silent nor empty, but alive with echoes of what once unfolded there. Modern studies continue to explore the site, using surveys and scanning technologies to map its foundations and remaining structures. Yet even with advanced tools, the deepest mysteries remain unsolved. The fortress resists full explanation, keeping its methods and meanings shrouded in uncertainty. Scholars may argue over techniques and purposes, but the stones themselves offer no answers. Under the vast sky, Sacsayhuaman stands in silence, its commanding walls urging visitors to question what hidden truths lie within Cusco's ancient fortress. Temple of Hathor at Dendera, Egypt. Along the west bank of the Nile, north of Luxor, the Temple of Hathor rises with a sense of calm authority. Its smooth sandstone walls reflect a soft golden light at dawn, creating an almost otherworldly glow across the desert plain. Visitors often pause at the entrance, struck by the delicate reliefs that cover the pylons and columns, depicting gods, pharaohs, and celestial symbols. The temple seems to hold its own rhythm, where the past breathes through painted walls and sculpted ceilings. The core of the temple complex seen today was completed during the reign of Ptolemy XII, around 54 BCE, although the site itself had been sacred for centuries before that. Earlier temples dedicated to Hathor existed here during the Old and Middle Kingdoms, and later pharaohs, including the Ptolemies and Romans, contributed to its expansion and decoration. Inscriptions record offerings, rituals, and celestial observations, showing the continuity of worship and the integration of new rulers into a long-standing spiritual tradition. As you walk through the massive hypostyle hall, the intricate columns, each crowned with Hathor's iconic face, immediately draw the eye. These faces, with their serene expressions and cow-like features, are repeated across the hall, giving the impression that the goddess herself watches over every visitor. The hall was likely used for large gatherings, ceremonies, and music dedicated to Hathor, who represented joy, love, and fertility. The design reflects both aesthetic beauty and careful planning to create an immersive spiritual environment. The ceiling of the temple holds some of its most remarkable imagery. Celestial scenes depict planets, stars, and constellations, interwoven with divine figures. Scholars suggest that these decorations were not merely artistic, they served as astronomical guides, marking the movements of the heavens and helping priests plan rituals. In particular, the famous zodiac carving, now housed in the Louvre, shows the sky as it was imagined in Ptolemaic Egypt, linking Earth and cosmos in one continuous narrative. The temple's sacred lake is another feature that demonstrates the blending of function and ritual. Water from this lake was used in purification ceremonies and possibly in agricultural rites tied to the flooding of the Nile. Hathor was often associated with water and fertility, and the lake reinforced her connection to life-giving forces. The careful orientation of the temple ensured that light and shadow would play across the water at key moments, enhancing the spiritual experience of those who approached it. Across the complex, reliefs and inscriptions make clear the presence of healers and musicians. Hathor was considered a protector of music, and scenes show priests playing sistrums and other instruments during ceremonies. Some reliefs depict individuals receiving blessings for health or fertility, suggesting that the temple functioned as a center of healing as well as worship. This combination of arts, medicine, and ritual underscores the temple's role in the daily and spiritual lives of ancient Egyptians. Over the centuries, the temple survived both natural and human challenges. Sandstorms, flooding, and earthquakes have worn the sandstone, yet much of the decoration remains vibrant. During the Roman period, additional inscriptions and small chapels were added, integrating new deities and reflecting the cultural exchange of the era. Modern conservation efforts have revealed layers of paint and plaster, allowing scholars to glimpse the temple as it might have appeared thousands of years ago. From the roof terraces, visitors can look out over the Nile and the vast surrounding plains. From this vantage, the temple's scale and alignment with the horizon become clear. Its position appears deliberate, connecting sacred architecture to the natural world and the river that nourished the land. The experience conveys a sense of both power and serenity, as though the temple itself is a mediator between human and divine realms. Through continued study, archaeologists are uncovering new insights into the Temple of Hathor's role in Ptolemaic religion, architecture, and astronomy. Each discovery adds depth, but also highlights the limits of modern understanding. While inscriptions provide names, dates, and rituals, many aspects of the temple's purpose and symbolism remain elusive. Its full story cannot be read from stone alone. At Dendera, the Temple of Hathor stands where music, sky, and devotion meet, inviting visitors to ponder the secrets the goddess still guards behind her painted eyes. Prambanan, Indonesia. In the fertile plains of central Java, a series of soaring spires rise against the horizon, their silhouettes etched sharply against the tropical sky. This is Prambanan, a Hindu temple complex that seems almost to pierce the clouds with its intricate towers. The first impression is one of vertical energy, as though each stone has been pulled upward by an unseen force. The sound of birds and the rustle of palm leaves contrast with the heavy, silent weight of the temple stones, creating a sense of both serenity and awe. Prambanan was built during the 9th century under the Sanjaya dynasty. It was dedicated primarily to the Trimurti Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer, with Shiva as the central deity. Inscriptions and reliefs indicate the temple served as a center for religious practice, political power, and cultural expression. Despite its age, the complex remains a testament to the skill of Javanese architects, who combined artistry with structural ingenuity in ways that continue to captivate modern visitors. The main temple of Shiva rises to 47 meters, surrounded by smaller temples dedicated to other gods and their attendants. Each spire is covered in detailed carvings that depict scenes from the Ramayana and other sacred stories. These reliefs are not only decorative, but also instructional, intended to teach moral lessons and religious principles to worshippers. Observers can trace entire narratives along the walls, from the foot of the temple to the highest terraces, experiencing the story both visually and spatially. Construction techniques at Prambanan reveal an advanced understanding of materials and seismic challenges. The region is prone to earthquakes, and the builders stacked volcanic stone blocks without mortar, relying on precise cuts and gravity to hold the massive structures in place. This method, while delicate, allowed the temples to sway slightly without collapsing during tremors. Archaeologists studying the complex today continue to marvel at this balance of rigidity and flexibility, which has helped the site survive for over a millennium. Recent studies have revealed that some stones were carved off-site and carefully transported using a combination of wooden rollers and bamboo scaffolding, highlighting the extraordinary planning behind the complex. The complex was abandoned in the 10th century following political shifts and natural disasters. Lava flows from nearby Mount Merapi, and centuries of neglect have buried much of the site under volcanic ash and soil. When rediscovered in the 18th and 19th centuries, Prambanan was partially restored, but many temples remained in ruins. Modern restoration efforts, begun in the early 20th century and continuing today, aim to stabilize the structures while preserving the intricate carvings that define the site's character. Prambanan is more than architecture. It is a reflection of Javanese society and cosmology. The layout follows strict symbolic rules, with temples aligned to cardinal points and central axes representing the universe. This planning integrates the spiritual and natural worlds, linking the human community to divine order. Walkways, courtyards, and subsidiary shrines create a layered experience, guiding visitors through both physical and metaphysical space. The complex also served as a cultural hub. Music, dance, and festivals were integral to its function, and traditional Ramayana performances continue near the site today. These events recreate stories carved in stone, connecting the present to the past. Scholars suggest that Prambanan's role in cultural life helped unify communities and reinforce royal authority, blending spiritual devotion with civic identity. Visitors often note the contrast between the grand central temples and the smaller periphery shrines. Each smaller temple adds depth to the overall design, creating a rhythm that guides the eye and the steps of those moving through the complex. The carvings on these outer structures sometimes feature less formal or even playful images, hinting at local beliefs, folklore, and the human touch behind the monumental work. Archaeologists and historians continue to study Prambanan, uncovering new insights into ancient Javanese society, religious practice, and construction techniques. Despite centuries of natural wear, the site retains a sense of intentionality, as though each stone was placed to speak across time. The carvings, the towers, and the courtyards work together to produce an experience that is both educational and profoundly moving. Prambanan stands as a monument where devotion, artistry, and human ingenuity converge, leaving each visitor to wonder what stories remain hidden in the shadows of its soaring spires. Philae Temple, Egypt. The island of Philae rises gently from the waters of the Nile, its surface dominated by an ancient temple complex that seems to float between river and sky. Early morning mists often drift across the stone steps, giving the ruins an otherworldly quality. Visitors report feeling as though the air itself carries whispers from the past, stories of rituals, devotion, and the lives of those who once worshipped here. The sound of water lapping against the island only enhances the sense that this place exists outside ordinary time. Philae Temple is dedicated primarily to the goddess Isis, a figure central to Egyptian religion and mythology. Construction began during the reign of Pharaoh Nectanebo I in the 4th century BCE, and continued under the Ptolemies, extending into the Roman period. Each ruler left traces of their influence in the hieroglyphs, inscriptions, and reliefs, creating a layered record of devotion that spans centuries. Archaeologists consider the temple one of the last great monuments of ancient Egyptian religious architecture. Excavations have uncovered stone reliefs showing not only religious ceremonies, but also detailed depictions of daily life along the Nile, offering insight into the broader society that supported the temple. The architecture of Philae blends classical Egyptian forms with subtle influences from Greco-Roman design. Columns are carved with lotus and papyrus motifs, while walls depict vivid scenes of gods, offerings, and ceremonial processions. Light filters through the narrow entrances, illuminating hieroglyphs in warm tones, creating shifting patterns throughout the day. The layout was carefully planned to guide visitors from the grand entrance through courtyards and halls to the inner sanctuary, where priests perform sacred rites. Flooding from the Nile once threatened to submerge the island regularly. After the construction of the Aswan Low Dam in the early 20th century, rising waters became a more permanent danger. In the 1960s, UNESCO launched an ambitious project to save the temple, relocating it stone by stone to the nearby higher Agilkia Island. This painstaking work preserved both the structural integrity and the spiritual atmosphere, allowing visitors today to experience the temple as close to its original state as possible. Inside the temple, walls are adorned with scenes of Isis receiving worshippers and performing miracles. Pharaohs are often depicted presenting offerings to the goddess, emphasizing the divine connection between ruler and deity. The detailed carvings reveal not only artistic skill, but also a deep understanding of symbolism, with each image conveying religious, political, and social meaning. Scholars continue to study these depictions to better understand daily life, religious beliefs, and ritual practices in ancient Egypt. The surrounding landscape contributes to the temple's sense of mystery. Palm trees, sandy banks, and the flowing Nile create a natural frame, enhancing the impression that Philae exists apart from the world. Birdsong and the movement of the river bring a quiet life to the site, reminding visitors that the island is both a monument and a living part of the Nile ecosystem. The contrast between human-made stone and the soft, moving water creates a sense of balance that would have been meaningful to the temple's builders. Archaeological studies suggest that the island's layout was also aligned with celestial events, hinting that the temple served as a center for astronomical observation as well as worship. Philae Temple also played a role in the transition from paganism to Christianity. After the rise of the Byzantine Empire, parts of the complex were converted into churches. Inscriptions and symbols from this later period overlap with ancient carvings, creating a complex palimpsest of faiths. These layers reveal how sacred spaces can evolve over time while retaining echoes of their original purpose. Every day, thousands of people, tourists, scholars, and archaeologists make their way to the temple, hoping to understand its importance. Nighttime light shows highlight the carvings and architecture, making the ancient reliefs seem almost alive. Photographers and artists are drawn to the interplay of shadow, water, and stone, capturing moments that reflect the enduring power of human devotion and creativity. Philae's survival through centuries of flooding, conquest, and religious change is a testament to the determination of those who built, preserved, and restored it. Each carved stone, each hieroglyph, seems to hold a secret of the past, waiting for those willing to look closely. The temple waits quietly, suspended between the Nile and the sky, a place where every shadow and reflection seems to tell a story that has yet to be fully heard. The Osirian, Abydos, Egypt. Hidden behind the Grand Temple of Seti I in Abydos, the Osirion presents a scene unlike typical Egyptian mortuary temples. Its entrance leads not upward but down into a vast subterranean hall built from massive stone blocks. The chamber feels suspended in time, with a low, still water basin covering much of the floor. Light filters from a small opening, casting ghostly reflections on the walls and pillars. Visitors often describe the air as heavy yet calm, a weight that suggests both age and solemnity. Archaeologists have long debated the purpose of the Osirian. It was constructed during the reign of Pharaoh Seti I in the 13th century BCE, yet its style is markedly different from nearby temples. Unlike the open courtyards and sunlit pylons, the Osirian emphasizes underground space and enclosure. Some scholars argue it was a symbolic tomb for Osiris, the god of the afterlife, while others see it as a ceremonial site for rituals connected to resurrection and rebirth. The architecture itself raises questions about construction methods. The hall's ceiling is supported by massive pillars carved from single blocks of stone, Surrounding walls are composed of enormous megaliths, each weighing several tons, precisely aligned to create perfect symmetry. Ancient builders achieved remarkable precision without modern machinery, leaving modern engineers puzzled about how such weight and scale were managed. Recent studies of the stone blocks reveal traces of tool marks that suggest a combination of copper chisels and stone hammers. Analysis of the stone surfaces indicates that the builders employed water and sand to smooth and level the massive blocks, a technique that required careful planning and remarkable labor coordination. These findings give insight into the methods used to move and shape stones that weigh several tons, highlighting the sophistication of ancient Egyptian engineering. Water plays a central role in the Osirian's design. The chamber sits partially below the natural water table, allowing water to collect in a large central basin. This feature may have symbolized the primeval waters of creation in Egyptian mythology, reflecting a connection between the physical site and spiritual concepts of life emerging from chaos. The reflections on the water's surface create a disorienting effect, making the pillars seem taller and the space even deeper. Reliefs and inscriptions inside the Osirian offer glimpses into its ceremonial function. Carvings depict Osiris seated on his throne, flanked by priests performing rituals. Unusual motifs, including symbolic boats and the serpent goddess Wadjet, appear repeatedly, suggesting a focus on divine protection and the cycle of life and death. The iconography indicates that the site held more than symbolic, meaning it was a stage for sacred performance and observance. Excavations in the early 20th century revealed that the Osirian may predate Setiai's reign, with some stonework and layout hinting at earlier construction phases. British archaeologist Flinders Petrie and later Margaret Murray noted differences in masonry and alignment that suggest a deliberate integration of older structures into Seti's project. This has led to speculation that the Osirian preserves echoes of an even older cultic center at Abydos, perhaps dating back to Egypt's first dynasty. Geophysical surveys around the site have uncovered hidden chambers and corridors that remain partially filled with sediment. These concealed spaces suggest that the Osirian was part of a larger ritual complex whose full extent has yet to be revealed. Researchers hope that careful excavation may uncover additional artifacts or inscriptions that clarify the relationship between the Osirian and earlier cultic practices at Abydos. The subterranean environment has preserved features that have vanished elsewhere. The still water slows erosion, and the lack of direct sunlight prevents fading of stone surfaces. As a result, some inscriptions and carvings retain details lost in above-ground temples. Archaeologists continue to study these remnants to understand both ritual practices and the advanced engineering knowledge of ancient builders. Visitors to the Osirian often remark on the eerie silence that fills the chamber. Unlike the bustling courtyards of Setiai's main temple, here the sound of footsteps is absorbed by stone and water. The reflection of pillars in the shallow basin creates the illusion of infinite space, and many report a sense of disconnection from the modern world. It is an experience that combines physical depth with spiritual weight, leaving an impression that lingers long after leaving the site. This subterranean monument, the Osirian, continues to protect its secrets, defying full understanding of its purpose and origins. Teotihuacan's Temple of the Feathered Serpent, Mexico. Teotihuacan rises from the central Mexican valley like a city frozen in time, and at its heart lies the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, known locally as Quetzalcoatl. From a distance, the structure appears as a broad, stepped pyramid adorned with undulating stone reliefs. The faces of feathered serpents climb the sides in rhythmic repetition, their eyes carved with precision that has survived nearly 2 millennia. The sheer scale of the temple, combined with the intricacy of its carvings, evokes a sense of awe and mystery that has puzzled visitors and scholars alike. The temple was built around 200 CE, during the height of Teotihuacan's influence. This period saw the city flourish as a hub of trade, religion, and culture in Mesoamerica. Archaeological evidence suggests the pyramids served both as a religious center and a political symbol. The feathered serpent, a deity linked to wind, rain, and fertility, dominated rituals that were integral to the society's connection with the natural and spiritual worlds. Excavations at the site have revealed a network of subterranean chambers beneath the pyramid. These hidden spaces contained offerings, including finely worked obsidian, jade figurines, and the remains of sacrificial victims. The placement of these items suggests careful planning and an elaborate ritual system. Some researchers believe the chambers were intended to channel the spiritual energy of the temple, linking the living city above with a sacred underworld. Analysis of the human remains shows that many victims were young adults, suggesting a ritual practice meant to honor or appease the gods of fertility and rain. The reliefs of serpents themselves hold intricate symbolism. Each serpent's head and body is decorated with feathers, claws, and fangs, forming patterns that may have represented cycles of life, death, and rebirth. Scholars have debated whether these motifs also functioned as a calendar or a map of celestial events. The repetition of the carvings, aligned with cardinal directions, hints at a deeper understanding of astronomy and cosmology. Recent studies of the carving's orientation indicate that the serpents may have marked solstices and equinoxes, hinting at the temple's role as an astronomical observatory. In addition to its spiritual significance, the temple was a center of public spectacle. The plazas around it could accommodate thousands of citizens who gathered for festivals and ceremonies. Some murals discovered near the base depict scenes of warriors, priests, and worshippers, suggesting that the rituals involved both community participation and displays of political power. The integration of art, architecture, and social ritual made the temple an essential anchor of life in Teotihuacan. Fragments of pigments found near the murals suggest that the original scenes were vibrantly colored, bringing the stories of gods and warriors vividly to life. The feathered serpent pyramid also reflects advanced engineering. The builders used layers of stone and mortar to create a foundation capable of supporting enormous weight. The steps were precisely measured, and the angles of the terraces show a careful understanding of geometry. Even after centuries of erosion, earthquakes, and human activity, the structure stands remarkably intact, a testament to the skill and vision of its creators. Discoveries in the surrounding area continue to challenge historians' understanding of Teotihuacan. Tombs and smaller pyramids suggest a complex hierarchy and a city designed with ritual, social, and defensive needs in mind. Some evidence points to the temple's alignment with nearby mountains and rivers, hinting at a symbolic relationship between the city and its natural environment. Each new excavation adds a layer of meaning while leaving questions about the civilization's ultimate purpose. Some scholars theorize that hidden pathways between the temple and nearby structures allowed priests to move unseen during rituals, reinforcing the sense of sacred mystery. Visitors today often sense a presence that extends beyond the stone and carvings. Walking along the base, one can imagine the ceremonies, chants, and processions that once filled the air. The shadows cast by the sun on the serpent reliefs shift with the hours, creating a sense of motion as if the creatures are awakening to witness the centuries pass. This experience connects the modern observer to the intentions of a culture long gone, yet vividly alive in its monumental art. Beneath its steps and carvings, the Temple of the Feathered Serpent holds the echoes of a city that once sought to unite earth, sky, and spirit in a single enduring design, leaving secrets that even time cannot fully reveal. Temple of the Cross Complex, Palenque, Mexico. Nestled within Chiapas's dense jungles, the Temple of the Cross Complex rises silently, its stepped pyramids partially swallowed by moss and climbing vines. The humid air carries the scent of wet earth and decaying leaves, and the occasional cry of a howler monkey echoes through the canopy. Visitors approaching the site are struck by the sudden emergence of towering stone walls and intricate carvings that seem almost otherworldly in this secluded environment. The atmosphere is heavy with both history and mystery, a feeling that the jungle itself is guarding ancient secrets. The complex, constructed during the reign of Kinich Khanbalam II in the 7th century, served as a ceremonial center for the Palenque civilization. Archaeologists have found that the three main temples, the Temple of the Cross, Temple of the Foliated Cross, and Temple of the Sun, are positioned to align with key celestial events. Each pyramid appears to act as a gateway between the earthly and the divine, emphasizing the Maya belief that rulers mediated the connection between gods and humans. Stone staircases, though weathered, still guide the eye upward, leading to sacred chambers where rituals once took place. Inside the Temple of the Cross, visitors encounter a carved panel depicting a divine tree, often interpreted as the world tree connecting heaven, earth, and the underworld. The figure of Khanbalam is shown seated before this tree, participating in rituals meant to ensure prosperity and the continuity of his rule. Scholars note that the carvings are not merely decorative, they encode historical and religious knowledge, recording events, dates, and the roles of gods and rulers alike. The precision of these inscriptions reveals the Mayas' mastery of both art and information. The Temple of the Foliated Cross presents a slightly different focus. Here, the carvings emphasize agricultural cycles and the natural world, linking the ruler's power to the fertility of the land. Symbols of maize, rain, and sacred animals fill the chambers, suggesting that religious observance was inseparable from the survival of the community. Some murals and carvings still retain traces of red and blue pigment, evidence of a once vibrant palette meant to amplify the temple's spiritual significance. One of the most remarkable aspects of the complex is the integration of architecture with landscape. The temples are built on terraces that rise above the natural contours of the land, creating a deliberate sequence of spaces that guide pilgrims from one sacred area to another. This careful planning enhances the sense of journey and anticipation, as each step upward leads to a chamber more elaborately adorned than the last. Archaeologists believe that this spatial design reflects both cosmological principles and social hierarchy, emphasizing the ruler's elevated position between gods and people. Some terraces also feature hidden niches that may have held sacred objects or offerings, hinting at secret rituals known only to the elite priests and rulers. Ritual artifacts recovered from the site provide insight into the ceremonies once held here. Jade offerings, carved bone instruments, and ceramic vessels suggest that the temples hosted elaborate rites involving music, dance, and offerings to the gods. Evidence of incense burning points to the use of scent as a way to transform the temple into a liminal space, bridging the mortal and divine realms. The combination of art, architecture, and ritual practice makes the Temple of the Cross complex an enduring testament to Maya ingenuity. Jungle, earthquakes, and centuries of human interference have not diminished the sacred aura of the temples. Visitors often remark on a sense of presence, as if the carvings themselves watch and measure the passage of time. Even the stairways and terraces, though eroded, seem to carry the weight of countless ceremonies and the energy of rulers long gone. The ongoing study of the complex continues to uncover details of Maya beliefs, revealing how spirituality, power, and astronomy were intertwined. The Temple of the Cross complex is more than stone and carvings. It is a narrative etched into the jungle itself, a story of rulers, gods, and people that demands careful attention and quiet reverence. Every angle, every shadow, and every symbol invites observers to imagine the ceremonies, the prayers, and the unspoken laws that guided a civilization thriving over a millennium ago. The secrets of Palenque remain suspended in the air, waiting for those who approach with both curiosity and respect. Tanah Lotsi Temple, Bali. Off Bali's southwestern coast, Tanah Lot rises from the waves, appearing almost suspended between ocean and sky. The temple perches atop a rocky outcrop, battered by tides yet enduring, drawing visitors with the sound of waves crashing against its base. Mist often rolls in from the sea, lending a sense of quiet mystery as the sun reflects off the water, turning the rocks golden in the late afternoon. The air carries the scent of salt and incense, mingling with chants of pilgrims who make the journey to honor their deities. The origins of Tanah Lot trace back to the 16th century, when the priest Danghyang Niratha is believed to have established the site as a spiritual center. Local legend says Niratha, traveling along the coast, was captivated by the rocky islet and decided it was a place fit for worship. He consecrated it to sea gods, ensuring the balance between humans and the ocean. Over centuries, the temple became an important site for devotees, its position above the waves symbolizing protection and reverence for nature. At low tide, the receding sea exposes sand and coral, allowing visitors to approach Tanah Lot along hidden pathways. At high tide, the temple appears completely surrounded by water, accessible only by careful wading or from boats. This changing access mirrors the rhythms of the sea itself, highlighting the connection between human activity and the natural world. The contrast of stability and flux adds to the temple's aura, suggesting that devotion here is not static but must adapt to the forces of nature. Architecturally, Tanah Lot blends simplicity with spiritual symbolism. The temple's dark volcanic stone matches the rocks it rests upon, grounding it in the landscape. Shrines and carved walls depict figures from Balinese mythology, emphasizing harmony between the spiritual and earthly realms. Steps lead up to inner sanctums where worshippers offer flowers, food, and prayers. Every detail reflects intentional design, where both function and sacred meaning are inseparable. Over time, erosion and heavy tourist traffic have threatened the site. In the 1980s, significant restoration efforts reinforced the rock foundations and repaired collapsed sections. The government, along with local communities, invested in protecting Tanah Lot while maintaining its traditional atmosphere. Preservation measures balance the need for structural safety with the spiritual and aesthetic experience, allowing the temple to remain both sacred and approachable. Ceremonies at Tanah Lot are vibrant displays of Balinese culture. During Kuningan and other important holy days, worshippers in colourful attire perform rituals that include offerings, music, and dances. The energy of these ceremonies contrasts with the serene view of waves, creating a rhythm that is both lively and meditative. Tourists often witness these rituals, gaining insight into the living traditions that sustain the temple's significance. Balinese artisans also contribute to the temple's continued vitality through intricate offerings and handcrafted decoration. Daily, locals place small woven baskets filled with flowers, rice, and incense along the temple walls, maintaining a visual rhythm that honors both tradition and devotion. These rituals of preparation and care extend the spiritual energy outward, connecting the temple to the community in tangible ways. Marine life around the rocky outcrop thrives despite human presence. Crabs and small fish navigate tidal pools, while occasional larger fish swim near the submerged base. Balinese folklore suggests protective spirits inhabit these waters, guarding the temple and punishing those who show disrespect. Such stories reinforce the bond between the spiritual and the ecological, reminding visitors that the site's sanctity extends into the sea itself. According to archaeological research, Tanah Lot formed part of a network of sea temples that helped fishermen and merchants navigate Bali's coast. This practical aspect underscores a fusion of sacred and everyday life, showing that the temple's placement was chosen not only for spiritual resonance, but also for guiding human activity safely along the unpredictable coastline. Tanah Lot continues to inspire awe, not just as a cultural landmark, but as a place where natural and spiritual forces converge. Its iconic silhouette at sunset has become emblematic of Bali, yet it remains a site of quiet reverence for those who understand its deeper significance. Standing on the shore or on the temple's steps, one senses both the immensity of the ocean and the human devotion it has inspired across centuries. The waves lap at the base of Tanah Lot, endlessly shaping the rock and guarding the secrets of those who built it. Temple of Poseidon at Cape Saunion, Greece. At the southernmost tip of the Attica Peninsula, the Temple of Poseidon looks out over the deep blue Aegean, its white marble columns glowing in the sunlight. The wind from the cliffs carries the scent of salt and seaweed, and the sound of waves crashing against jagged rocks below underscores the temple's maritime connection. Travelers and sailors alike would have gazed at this sight as both a warning and a promise, knowing that Poseidon, god of the sea, watched over the waters that could bring fortune or disaster. The temple's isolated position makes it feel suspended between land and ocean, a threshold between human effort and the vast, unpredictable sea. Built in the 5th century BCE, during the height of the Athenian Empire, the temple stands on the remnants of an earlier structure. Archaeologists believe the current columns were part of a project funded by the city-state to assert both piety and power. Constructed from locally quarried marble, the structure originally held a massive statue of Poseidon, now lost to time. The columns, though partially ruined, hint at the elegance and precision of classical Greek architecture, each fluted shaft rising gracefully above the cliff. The strategic location of Cape Saunion made the temple an essential landmark for ancient mariners. Ships travelling from Athens to the islands of the Cyclades would have used the temple as a visual guide, a sacred beacon signalling safe passage. Inscriptions and fragments found nearby suggest that offerings were made here not only to honour the god, but also to seek protection for sea voyages. Sailors would leave gifts, hoping for favourable winds and calm waters during long journeys across the Aegean. Legends tied to the temple enhance its mysterious aura. One of the most famous tells of King Aegeus, who leapt into the sea from these cliffs in despair, giving his name to the Aegean Sea. According to the myth, he mistakenly believed his son, Theseus, had been killed while battling the Minotaur in Crete. This tragic story intertwines human emotion with divine oversight, casting a timeless shadow over the temple and the waters below. Visitors often report a sense of solemnity when standing near the edge, as though the cliffs themselves retain echoes of ancient grief and devotion. As impressive as the temple's architecture was the life of its ceremonies. Historical evidence points to festivals honouring Poseidon, where priests and worshippers would gather to perform rituals, make sacrifices, and conduct prayers for the safety of the city and its sailors. The temple also functioned as a symbol of Athenian identity, demonstrating wealth, devotion, and cultural sophistication. These gatherings would have been vibrant events, the chants of worshippers carrying across the cliffs, blending with the roar of the sea. The terrain around it enhances the temple's mysterious atmosphere. Jagged rocks below have been polished smooth by centuries of relentless waves, creating natural amphitheatres that amplify sound and highlight the temple's prominence from afar. Observing from the shoreline, the columns appear to rise directly from the ocean, a visual testament to the Greeks' blending of natural and architectural beauty. Archaeologists have also noted remnants of nearby fortifications, suggesting the site had both religious and military significance, protecting Athens' southern coastline. It is the combination of the temple's history and the spectacle of its sunsets that fascinates visitors today. As the sun dips below the horizon, the marble glows with a soft golden light, contrasting with the deepening blue of the sea. Photographers and travelers alike attempt to capture this fleeting moment, yet few images can replicate the combination of sound, wind, and light that fills the air. Standing among the remaining columns, one senses the continuity of human experience, the awe, the devotion, and the connection to forces beyond control. Ongoing archaeological studies continue to uncover new details about Cape Sunian's temple complex, including smaller shrines and ancient pathways leading to the water. These findings hint at a more elaborate network of worship, navigation, and daily life than previously understood. Each discovery deepens the sense that the site was more than a place of devotion. It was a living intersection of myth, practical navigation, and human ambition, suspended above the waves. Even as centuries of wind and salt erode its stones, the Temple of Poseidon at Cape Sunian holds an unshakable presence, standing as a silent witness to human devotion, tragedy, and the eternal mystery of the sea. Mithraeum beneath San Clemente, Rome. Below the surface of Rome, the Mithraeum beneath San Clemente offers a world apart from the bustling streets above. Visitors entering through a narrow passage are immediately confronted with the sense of deliberate concealment. The chamber is small, almost claustrophobic, and its low stone ceiling presses down with a weight that speaks of centuries of secrecy. Light from modern lamps reveals faint traces of frescoes and carvings, remnants of ceremonies performed in hushed voices long ago. The space feels untouched, as if the daily bustle of the city above could never reach this subterranean sanctuary. Experts date the temple to the 3rd century CE, when the Roman Empire spanned vast lands and faced shifting borders. This Mithraeum was one of many sacred spaces devoted to Mithras, a deity associated with strength, protection, and cosmic balance. At its center, the relief of Mithras slaying the bull dominates the altar, conveying an enduring symbol of life, death, and renewal. Surrounding walls once held niches for offerings, and traces of painted scenes suggest that initiates experienced a fully immersive spiritual environment, shaped by both art and architecture. The rituals of Mithras were enigmatic and highly structured. Initiates progressed through ranks marked by symbolic acts, oaths, and shared feasts. Stone benches lining the chamber hint at communal gatherings, where members reclined to observe rites and participate in ceremonies. Each participant's role was precise, with movement, positioning, and gestures reinforcing a layered system of meaning. These practices created bonds between worshippers, while reinforcing secrecy from outsiders, making the Mithraeum a hidden network within the city. The temple's placement beneath San Clemente adds a complex historical layer. The basilica, built in the 4th century CE, sits atop older Roman houses and religious spaces. Scholars believe that as Christianity spread through Rome, many Mithraic temples were abandoned or repurposed, yet the Mithraeum survived almost intact beneath new structures. Its preservation offers a rare glimpse into the coexistence and replacement of belief systems in the ancient city, showing how one faith quietly overlaid another. Evidence points to the Mithraeum being aligned with celestial events, perhaps tracking the sun or chosen constellations. Some researchers believe that light entering the chamber at specific times of the year illuminated the central relief of Mithras, reinforcing the connection between the deity, cosmic cycles, and the rituals performed by initiates. This intentional design demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of astronomy woven into religious practice. Details in the chamber suggest a deliberate manipulation of the senses. Traces of incense and oils indicate that smell played a role in rituals, while carved symbols, such as torches and ravens, conveyed esoteric meaning. The reliefs themselves display careful attention to proportion and expression, designed to inspire awe and focused devotion. Color pigments, now faint, hint at a once vivid interior meant to engage both eye and imagination. Every element, from floor to ceiling, seems purpose-built for the spiritual experiences of its initiates. The walls themselves bear inscriptions that show the human dimension of the cult. Names of initiates, along with symbols marking rank and achievements, indicate a structured society within the temple walls. Some inscriptions express gratitude or recount survival and fortune, providing insight into the personal lives of those who participated. These fragments speak to a network of belief that extended across the Roman Empire, linking distant cities through shared devotion to Mithras. Fragments of ritual objects, such as small bowls, oil lamps, and ceremonial figurines, have been unearthed, indicating daily acts of worship and symbolic offerings. The placement of these items within niches and along benches suggests that each object played a role in the rites, possibly representing stages of initiation or personal petitions to Mithras. Together with the inscriptions, they provide a tangible sense of the temple's function as both a spiritual and communal space. The Mithraeum also offers clues about the social identity of its followers. Evidence suggests that soldiers, merchants, and bureaucrats frequented such temples, seeking guidance and camaraderie. The arrangement of space, communal benches, and ritual objects emphasizes collective experience while maintaining strict secrecy. The temple was not just a site of worship, but a hub for social and spiritual cohesion, where participants enacted rites that connected them to the cosmos and to one another. Exploring the Mithraeum, visitors encounter a silent realm where Mithras's enigmatic presence remains.